Hello everybody, Faewryn here. Wanted to go over my updated deck profile for this weekend, where I participated in 2 tournaments. I went to my locals for a case tournament. I went even 3 for 3, didn't really have a good day, wasn't feeling super well. But on Saturday, I came first place in MBT's Chaliceslime Monthly. It was ton of fun. I came 15th in Swiss and then won all of Top Cut for first place. So just wanted to go over some of my deck profile choices, some of the things that I have been playing that maybe not everyone has been playing, and just overall some really cool stuff in this deck I think you can do. So started off, you have the basic standard Dinosaur package of 3 Oviraptor, 1 Misk, 3 Baby, 1 Petit, 2 Archosaur, 1 Rex, and 2 Ultimate Conductor Tyranno. These you pretty much can't change at all. Theoretically, if you're running like the True King package, you would go up to like 2 Petit for sure. But that package isn't very good right now with a lack of ranked 9s to go into. So pretty much these ratios are set in stone. Whenever I go second, if I need a couple extra side-ins, a lot of time I'll side out Baby and 1 copy of Baby and 1 copy of Scrap Raptor. Speaking of which, the Scrap package, I play 3 Scrap Raptor and 1 Chimera. The standard ratio, a lot of the time, tends to be like 2 Scrap Raptor, 1 Chimera, but the problem that I've found with that method is that, so Lost World and Scrap Raptor is full combo, right? Like, if your opponent doesn't have a hand trap, you can end on the exact same board as, like, OV Misk Baby, or, like, OV Misk, if you open just Lost World and Scrap Raptor, but you can't do that unless you play, like, at least 2 Scrap Raptor, which is why you would play 2, but if you draw 1 Scrap Raptor, then if you don't specifically do the Scrap Raptor plus Lost World play, you can't actually go full combo, because the combo involves summoning 2 Scrap Raptors from deck specifically. And if you draw 1, and you only have 1 left in deck like this, you can't actually go full combo. So I feel like you definitely want to be playing 3. There's another variation of the combo which summons Scrap Golem instead of the second Scrap Raptor. However, I think being that Scrap Golem is a really bad brick, you can't normal summon it like on its own because it's a 5-star. And all it really nets you is like an Appaloosa or an extra body for like the Dag de Verte thing, which I think Dag de Verte is like kind of like it's what every deck in the meta is doing, and being that we're playing a rogue deck, we don't really want to be going into the exact same things that meta is doing. We really want to be focusing on something that people don't really necessarily know how to immediately play against and counter, and aren't main decking specific outs to. So I think the Scrap Golem play is not great. Appaloosa kind of sucks under Lost World because she loses 500 attack and therefore a negate. So overall, I think the 3 Scrap Raptor, 1 Chimera is much better than the 2 Scrap Raptor and 1 Golem. And then to round off the dinosaurs, you have the 1 of Pankratops. It's really only good going second. I mean, there are some lines where if you brick, you can like have Petit get popped in some way, like summon, like banish 2 for Misk, summon Petit, go to end phase, this gets popped, you summon Pankratops for like a single interruption, which sometimes can be good enough to at least save you from lethal. I think this card's really, really important in the main deck. If you lose die roll, this card can out like actually quite a few cards on its own. Usually at least, well, it's always at least 1, usually it's 2. I've had people spend like 3 cards to get rid of this Pankratops before. It is absolutely insane, and a must include in the main deck. Then for the dinosaur spells, we have the 2 double evolution pills, the 3 fossil digs, and the 3 lost worlds. This card is absolutely crazy right now, which is why I'm also running the one Terraforming. I'll get to that later. But being able to shut off targeting from your opponent whenever they control a token, being able to lower the attack and defense of all non-dinosaur monsters, being able to destroy a dinosaur from deck when a normal monster would be destroyed by battle or card effect. All of these effects are just absolutely insane. It has... The deck quite literally does not work without it. You want to be playing as many copies of this deck as possible. Of this card as possible in this deck. So, I think it's just completely... It's invaluable, I suppose. Then, for the hand traps, we have 3 Gamma, 1 Driver. A lot of people are just shotgunning Lancia this format. Good players will hold it till you have a monster, but that lets you get away with stuff that you normally wouldn't get away with. And a lot of the time you can force the Lancia while you have no monsters. If you have, like, Misk, got off of a Fossil Dig, you pitch it to the graveyard, your opponent's going to panic and, like, Lancia, and then you can just Gamma there and profit, because that's, like, basically a +2, because you summon the Gamma, and then you make Omega, and then Omega just rips another card out of hand, and you're pretty much good from that point. Not only do you get deck knowledge, which in Game 1 a lot of people might even just scoop to keep you from the deck knowledge, so you want a free game off of literally just Gamma. I've had that happen quite a few times before. It's just, like, really, really good. You can, if you normal summon Scrap Raptor, pop itself, go to search the Chimera, and they ash that. You can Gamma there. I've had that come up quite a few times, so Gamma, I think, is kind of an honorary member of the Dinosaurs. Lancia, this card has been absolutely insane in the main deck. Almost every single deck is banishing right now. Like Sword Soul, the Based Pile deck, the Fluondaries wants to banish. Like, every deck right now, save for, like, Drytron and Prank Kids, but even then, Prank Kids is running the Brave package, which is just incredibly good at. It turns Rite of Eremisier, or not right, but Water Enchantress completely off. She cannot activate her effect because she has to banish as cost, so it's just absolutely insane. You definitely should consider 3 main decked Lancia. Just wild. I mean, even if you go first and you set up a board of, like, 2 interactions, your opponent's, like, pretty confident, you Lancia, they just lose every time. So, absolutely awesome. I'll go over this in a second. 3 Ghost Ogre. This card's, like, alright. It's never super powerful, but when it comes up, it comes up. I think that Ghost Ogre being kind of like the 4th different hand trap that I'm playing is perfectly fine. It hits the adventure stuff, which is what you really want it to hit. It can hit field spells randomly, which some people don't notice. That is actually something you have to take into consideration whenever making your chain links, is how do you want to protect your cards? Do you want to protect your Soul Eating Oviraptor or Archosaur, or do you want to protect your Lost World? It really just depends on your hand, and you have to be a little mindful of that. Sometimes I definitely mess that up and don't think about it. So, something to keep in mind. But Ghost Ogre is pretty good this format. I'd say better than Ash Blossom. It can at least remove a body off of board. So, there's that. It's not amazing. It's definitely, like, the weakest hand trap in the deck, but I wouldn't really cut it. And then Token Collector. If you watched MBT's Chaliceslime Monthly Top Cut, which I recommend, go watch that. He's a great commentator, great YouTuber, and the tournament was a ton of fun. There was some crazy games in Top Cut. He has them uploaded on his channel. This card's crazy right now, basically, if you are unfamiliar with Token Collector, is a level 4 Earth Fiend monster with 0 attack and 2000 defense, and it says if a token is special summoned except during the damage step, you can special summon this card from your graveyard, if it was there when the token was special summoned, or hand, even if not. That text is a little confusing for some newer players, but basically it just means like if you searched Token Collector as like Chainlink 1, like somehow if you were searching it, I can't think of any card, like maybe Small World or something, and your opponent chains like Scapegoat to that, you can still activate Token Collector, because the tokens will be summoned and then Token Collector will come to hand as Chainlink 1, and then at the end of the chain, it sees that tokens have been summoned. Whereas from Graveyard, it's different. So, and then that effect of Token Collector is a hard once per turn. And then this says, if this card is special summoned, destroy as many tokens on the field as possible, and if you do, this card gains 400 attack for each token destroyed. The attack gain is pretty much completely irrelevant. However, destroying as many tokens on the field as possible is crazy. You can destroy the Brave token, you can destroy the Auroradon tokens, you can destroy the Sword Soul tokens. The whole meta right now just revolves around tokens. 50% of the decks are playing a token deck that requires the token to be on field for them to go hard pluses. Right now, if they activate the Rite of Aramesir, they summon the token, they get the Fateful Adventure, you summon the Token Collector. The only thing they can do from that point, the token is destroyed, they can add the Equip spell, and then maybe they can add like Winged Griffin Rider for the body on board if their field is clear. And doesn't have any monsters on it after you destroy the token. But they have been essentially brought down from 2 or 3 extra cards, depending on how you look at it, to like 1. So it's just really, really crazy. And then, of course, it has a continuous effect that says neither player can special summon tokens. This is also incredibly relevant because this isn't just a single interaction, it's also a floodgate. If your opponent summons a token and then has extension that summons more tokens, it literally doesn't matter. They would have to remove this first. And for a lot of decks, that's almost impossible. Like, they can't even imperm the Token Collector because they will have a monster on field whenever this effect activates, and then most of the time, because they're activating the Fateful Adventure right away, with the Rite of Aramesir, they now have the continuous spell and can't Forbidden they can Forbidden Chalice, but they cannot Infinite Impermanence. Part of the reason why I think Forbidden Chalice is a little bit better this format, and I am playing it as well, I'll go over why specifically for my deck since I'm not playing the Brave package, but absolutely this card is crazy, has to be main decked in Dinosaurs. You can go full combo with it, as I mentioned in other videos. If you have Lost World and like Giant Rex and Token Collector, that's still full combo. So, just wild. And then the 3 other cards in my deck are just a couple power 1-ofs. You have Call by the Grave, which you kind of have to play. Everyone's on hand traps right now. This counters like Lancia, this counters Ghost Ogre, Ash, any of those hand traps that put themselves in graveyard. Dimension Shifter is really good to hit off of this if you're playing against Fluanderees, because Dimension Shifter just kind of kills the deck. Foolish Burial. So this card's like been pretty good. It basically acts as your 5th copy of Misk, if you count Fossil Dig as like your 2nd, 3rd, 4th. This could be like your 5th copy of Misk. It's not as good as Fossil Dig or having Misk in hand, because you don't get the on-field protection, but it's pretty good for what it is. It can also send Token Collector to the graveyard, as mentioned before. It can summon itself from graveyard. Not too many, highlighted the wrong part of the text there. Not too many hand traps have the ability to activate from the graveyard. I can't think of any off the top of my head. This might be one of the only ones. So the utility of that is just insane. Meaning that, yes, Foolish Burial, Lost World, and then any Dinosaur is also full combo. So basically, the theory behind this is just that you're trying to play as many cards that get you to your 2 and 3 card combos as possible. Then you have Terraforming, This card's really good, like I mentioned before. It searches the Lost World, and that's it. I mean, obviously you can side out the Lost Worlds for Mystic Mine, but Mystic Mine isn't that great. I'll get into the side deck in a second. But yeah, Terraforming I think is a must-play. Speaking of the side deck, we have, for going first, a lot of times I'll side out like Ghost Ogre because it's the weakest hand trap. So I'll side in the Solemn Judgment. I think Solemn Judgment's really, really good for this deck because Dinosaurs particularly lose to stuff like Forbidden Droplet and Dark Ruler No More super duper hard. So if you can flip the Solemn Judgment, they just kind of lose as long as they don't... Like, if they send a trap card, then, you can't respond with Solemn Judgment, but they hardly ever send trap cards. Most people are going to be sending monsters. I think if you play against an Eldritch opponent, they're pretty likely to be sending a trap, but most people are just going to send like 2 monsters, try and negate your Dolka and UCT, and call it a day, and then you flip Solemn Judgment, just go, okay, I win, because you went -3 for nothing. I still have my 3 interactions. 1 red reboot, because against any deck that wants to activate trap cards, this card is absolutely insane. Dinosaurs, of course, is aggro enough to completely and fully utilize this card to its fullest extent. You can OTK very easily in this deck, and even if you don't, you can still break the board and like pop the trap card that they get for free off of this. So it doesn't really matter because of stuff like Scrap Wyvern and Access Code. There are 2 Dogoron here. I usually side out like the Scrap Raptor and the Baby, as I mentioned earlier, for Dogoron if I need a little bit of extra space. This card's pretty good against stuff like DPE, because tributing it makes it so that DPE doesn't trigger and it can't come back every standby phase now. So it's a good like permanent out to that card. Drone Lockbird obviously is very insane in this format as well. A lot of times I'm siding out Call by the Grave, Foolish Burial, and Terraforming for the 3 copies of Drone Lockbird whenever I'm going second, because this card just absolutely shuts down Brave decks. Like if they banish Search Rite of Aramasir, they still get the token and the Faithful Adventure, but the Faithful Adventure literally does nothing because it can't search anything under Droll. And a lot of decks really need like 2+ searches, and this shuts down the Brave stuff as well. So, really, really good. Hurts the consistency of those big pile decks so much. Then there's Mystic Mine. This card is kind of like okay right now. When it comes up, it really, really comes up. Like I said about Ghost Ogre, like when it's relevant like really well. This as well. Against decks that this is good with, they basically cannot out it. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Fluandereeze struggles quite a bit against this deck, or against this card, because of this. So this is potentially a pretty good side-in against Fluandereeze. I think they only have out-of-engine outs for this card, so they have to draw the out. And Yu-Gi-Oh! Players know very well that drawing the out isn't always going to happen. So it's worth considering. I might cut this for Nibiru. I'm not sure. Nibiru is also pretty good this format. When combined with a hand trap like Ghost Ogre or Gamma, especially because like they're going to not respect Nibiru at all under if they're using the Brave stuff. The Brave stuff gives them 2 summons, and then they go like 3 or 4 summons in to their main combo, and then you just Nibiru, they try to negate, and then Ghost Ogre actually disrupts the negation from Griffin because it has to shuffle back into the deck to negate, and Ghost Ogre makes it leave the field before it can do that because it does not shuffle back as cost. Same with Gamma, it negates and destroys. So if this was Nibiru, you could side like these 3 out for Nibiru, or like your Lost Worlds out for Nibiru if you want to also side in Drolls and go like super hand trap heavy. And then you can just like basically functionally FTK your opponent. And then 3 Forbidden Chalice. This is really, really good for this deck specifically. I think it's better than Imperm, because the thing with Imperm is that it needs to be used when your field is clear for it to be effectively a quick play. And a lot of times your field just isn't clear, like, even going second, like, it's an okay hand trap, but this is much better for board breaking. This responds to stuff like DPE and Griffin and Baron a lot better, just because you can bait the negate with, like, say you normal summon Overraptor, and then they go, like, chain Baron, and then you, like, a lot of times you can have Misk ready. It is basically at 4 copies in the deck, so you could, like, in an ideal situation, normal Ovi, they chain Baron, you chain Misk, they chain Griffin, you chain Forbidden Chalice to the Griffin, and you just won the game. They would have to then chain, like, DPE if they haven't already used it to, like, Scythe Lock you, which this deck can play under Scythe Lock very well because of Ultimate Conductor Tyranno. He is a powerhouse. This deck has a hard time playing under Lancia and Scythe, which a lot of those based decks are doing Lancia and Scythe. But Forbidden Chalice helps counter that, and also, like I mentioned earlier, like, with Mystic Mine, it's alright, but this makes Mystic Mine, like, a lot better if you see them both, because if your opponent tries to, say, negate this with the Griffin Rider, you can just Forbidden Chalice it, and then it's stuck. The only out they would have then is, like, Dracoback, and if you can, which is why, like, also, like, Dogoron is really, really good. So if you can out the token with the Dracoback in any way, Mystic Mine is just really, really crazy. A lot of times, like, if your opponent sets up a, like, big monster board, you can also OTK under Mystic Mine with Ultimate Conductor Tyranno and Pentastag, because it gives it piercing. If you summon a token to your opponent's field, that's 3,500 damage piercing for this, and then you slap down the Mystic Mine, and as long as you can do another 6,500 before they get, or 5,500 before they get under 2 monsters, you just win the game instantaneously. It's really crazy. A lot of times, like, Verte, if they've already paid 2,000, then instead of 8,000, they have 6,000, and then you've just done over half their life points with one attack, and if they left Verte up, that's actually game. So, really, really awesome. Speaking of the extra deck cards, probably should have went over these earlier, but it's okay. 1 Linkuriboh, 1 Secure Gardna, 1 Scrap Wyvern, 1 Pentastag, 1 Nightmare Unicorn, and 1 Access Code Talker for the links. This is really solid. I really wouldn't change this lineup at all. There are a lot of brick hands you can get out of by normal summoning the Archosaur and activating its effect to search for Pill by popping, like, say you don't, like if you just draw Archosaur and Overraptor, it's actually better to normal summon the Archosaur, because you can pop the Overraptor, search Pill, link off, and you make Ultimate Conductor Tyranno, whereas normal summoning the Overraptor, you just search Misk, and theoretically you're also getting to the Ultimate Conductor Tyranno, but that plays under the like hand traps in the format a lot less well, because a lot of people are not going to Ash Archosaur on the field because they're afraid of you having the one of Misk. But if you have the if you search the one of Misk and banish it, they know that they can interact with that with Ash very easily. So Archosaur, Overraptor, better Archosaur to normal summon in that scenario, because you can make Linkuriboh into Secure Gardna, and the Double Evolution Pill has the non-dinosaur in the form of Linkuriboh to summon your Ultimate Conductor Tyranno, banishing Linkuriboh and Archosaur. So really, really solid. Wouldn't change these two at all. Scrap Wyvern is obviously 100% needed for the Scrapple line. It's what makes it possible. Being able to just go so far with this card by linking 2 monsters and destroying a card on field after summoning from deck is just absolutely insane. This card gets you everything you could ask for. Just wild, honestly. Pentastag for the piercing that I mentioned earlier. Nightmare Unicorn for link climbing into Access Code Talker. Also really good removal for cards that can't be destroyed by card effects. Or are, like, you know, maybe immune to Conductor in some way, but not to Unicorn. Borreload, Savage Dragon. Best Synchro 8 in the game, besides maybe Omega, but I think Savage is just better in, the case of like going first. Making this and equipping it with Scrap Wyvern makes it go up to 3350 under Lost World, which is like really, really hard for a lot of decks to out. And giving it an Omni Negate is really nice. You can Omni Negate like a continuous spell on its activation or a field spell on its activation and destroy it. A lot of people don't realize that because Savage says when your opponent activates a card or effect, you can remove one borrow counter and negate the activation. It doesn't say destroy that card. But for continuous and field spells to resolve, they must remain on the field. Or rather, let me restate that. For continuous and field spells to resolve, they need to actually resolve. So the activation being negated causes them to be destroyed because they cannot remain on the field unless they resolve. So, Faewryn Lord Omega, really, really good with the Gamma package. Actually, spoilers for the Chaliceslime Monthly. If you haven't gone watch that yet, pause here, go watch the finals, and then come back. I won finals with this card. My opponent bricked pretty hard in Game 3, and we just played Faewryn Lord Omega control for the entire match. It was really cool. Then you have Bujinki Amaterasu. This card is absolutely insane. Definitely a must-play in the scrap version of Dinosaurs because this recycles Misk and recycles Chimera. So you're effectively giving yourself 5 bodies potentially for follow-up, because you can put Misk back on field as material for the Dolka, which helps you make more interruptions, and you can, on your follow-up turn, banish the Misk like OV Baby Rex, summon an OV from deck, OV Chainlink 1, Rex Chainlink 2, so if they didn't negate the Misk summon from deck for some reason, like maybe you already had you still had a Dolka negate, and they like try and ash it, and you negate it, and they still have like another card to negate, it doesn't matter because you're now chain blocking. So you summon back the OV and the Rex, it searches Ultimate Conductor Tyranno, you can normal summon the Chimera, bring back the Scrap Raptor, that is 4 bodies already. Then you can like link 4, a link climb up into Access Code Talker, and then you can summon the Ultimate Conductor by banishing 2 of the Dinosaurs, and voila, you have over 8,000 damage on an empty board. And Ultimate Conductor, as long as it can attack 3 monsters, Access Code Talker is also still lethal. And not to mention, on the full board, you have Bujinki Amaterasu still on field. You still have Borreload Savage Dragon. And you may still have the Dolka. So, and another Ultimate Conductor Tyranno if they didn't break your board. Absolutely crazy for this deck. Tornado Dragon for those niche scenarios where you go up against a deck like Eldritch or Fluandaries, which really wants to have a field spell or a continuous spell trap on the field. Abyss Dweller is absolutely insane against decks like Phantom Knights, and a lot of the decks in the meta just really want to be using graveyard effects, so definitely got to be playing Dweller. Really easy to go into. Evolsar Logia and Evolsar Dolka need no explanation. Solemn Judgment and non-once per turn Solemn Strike, that's twice. Baguska, the Terribly Tired Taper. This card's absolutely insane if, like, you brick, especially, like, if you open just the Scrap Raptor as your play, you can pop it, search Chimera, bring Chimera back, normal summon out the Chimera with your extra normal, bring back the Scrap Raptor, and make Baguska. Ultimate Plan B card. Summon it in defense, and your opponent's monsters basically cannot activate their effects in defense, because all of the effects of their monsters are negated if they activated while in defense, and the monster gets switched to defense instantaneously upon summon, so not even trigger effects can activate. Your opponent will ask you about that, and you'll have to tell them the bad news. Well, bad news for them anyway. And then Divine Arsenal, AA, Zeus, Sky, Thunder. What else can I say about this card that hasn't already been said? It's absolutely insane. It's maybe not as good in this deck as other cards. I would say this is definitely a flex spot. If you wanted to play another card in this extra deck, this would be one of the first cards you can cut.
So you can summon it over an Xyz monster if an Xyz monster battled. Most of your Xyz monsters are only going to have 2 materials, so when you summon this, it'll only have 3. So it'll only have 1 use of its effect, which is detach 2 materials to send all other cards from the field to the graveyard. And, sometimes your opponent isn't very smart and they play into this effect where you can attach 1 card from the hand, deck, or extra deck to this card as material. Maybe they're smart and they just forgot about this effect. But they a lot of times do remember it, and it doesn't really come up all that often. So 1 use on the Zeus is fine. It's not as good as like Zodiac, which can set up like 2 or 3 uses of it. You can actually, if you go into Bujinki Amaterasu, get the 4 material under it. That's the only monster in the deck that allows you to do that. And that's actually it for the deck profile. I apologize for the length of this video. Is probably very long. I haven't checked how much time this took to record. But I hope you enjoyed it at the very least, and I hope that you would subscribe and hit the bell if you're interested in more dinosaur stuff. I am going to be posting a dinosaur combo probably tomorrow or Wednesday. We'll see about my availability this week. I'm a little busy. But definitely before YCS Charlotte in 2 weeks, I'll have a couple more videos up detailing what you can do with dinosaurs. So thank you everyone for watching, and have a great day. Please.